So hello everyone, my name is Lorraine Rosema. I am the online instructor and systems analyst for extended education and global outreach here at CSU Bakersfield. I am here as your facilitator for this webinar. So hello, nice to not quite see you. So webinars are a little bit different from meetings. If anyone's never been in one of these before, you do not have audio for you as attendees and you don't have video for you as attendees. This is kind of like a privacy thing. Like, you can see in my office because I've set it up as my business area, but I don't really want to see into your homes just in case. So we will have an opportunity for anyone and everyone who wants to kind of talk or have questions or anything towards the end of the webinar. But I'd like to say hello, welcome you to the AI Basics, a practical introduction to artificial intelligence. This webinar will run for 60 minutes, 30 minutes of presentation, and then 15 minutes at the end for, that's 45 minutes, never mind, 45 minutes, that's exciting. So presentation and then 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. So if you would like to submit questions while I'm going through the presentation, and those questions to be about the presentation, about AI, about eventually I'll be talking about our certificate program, any questions that you have at the very bottom of your Zoom screen or along the top banner of your Zoom screen, because I know I'm sharing my screen right now, there should be a Q&A. And if you want, or if you have any questions during the presentation, you can totally put your questions in the Q&A and I will answer as many as we have time for at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. So the purpose of this webinar today is to kind of introduce AI in a clear, approachable way, because I want you to leave curious, confident, and aware of both opportunities and responsibilities for using AI. The reason why we wanted to host this webinar and to really reach out and start learning and teaching about AI was because it's becoming very prevalent. It's in our everyday use, and we really want to be able to understand, like, how do we use it? Why do we use it? When and where? All these different things. So today's goal is just to kind of get you curious, to get you confident, get you started looking at different AI tools and what they can do for us. The long-term goal, however, and this is from me personally, is learning understanding, learning what AI is and what it isn't, seeing the application, recognizing safe and ethical uses of AI and generative AI, awareness, understanding the potential pitfalls and understanding how to avoid those things, and understanding how do we recognize when AI is being used and when it's being used to help or being used to harm. And then having growth, our personal growth. AI is something that is, again, it's in our everyday use, even if we don't always recognize it. And so growing with our knowledge and learning and applying that learning and knowledge to how we navigate the world is going to help us be better prepared for when we encounter these things or when we need to use these things. And one running theme throughout this entire webinar and throughout any type of AI use is to remember that AI is an assistant, not a replacement. You're the human. You have a world knowledge inside of you, and your world knowledge is more important than what the AI is going to be able to produce. So always remember that AI can help, but it does not replace. And again, as we go through this, if you have any questions, use that QA button. So let's start off with some terms and definitions, because we throw this word around AI. What does that actually mean? So AI stands for artificial intelligence. It's meant to mimic human thinking, but it doesn't actually think or make decisions. So that's something very important to remember. Generative AI, which is the thing I'm going to focus on the most for this presentation, is AI that can create new like content. So it's made from content that already exists and puts it in a form or a format that you've asked for it. Right? Generative pre-trained transformer, that's GPT, if you've ever heard of Chat GPT or any other type of GPTs. So it's a model, just like the Chat is a model, and it's trained on a massive data set of text and code. That data set comes from the internet. Anything that's ever been uploaded onto the internet, that's what your AI is using, right? We're going to talk about prompts. Prompts are the way that we instruct our AI tool to give us an output. We're going to talk about outputs, which is what the AI gives us once we've given it a prompt. Models are, again, the way that the data set is used to create those outputs. And we're going to be looking at large language models And these are the ones that are trained on data sets to mimic human language and text. These are the ones that are more conversational when you are using your prompts and when they're giving you outputs. And then we're also going to talk about hallucinations and why we want to make sure that we recognize hallucinations and we know how to do fact checking. And I also have this little note here, like, remember, AI is fed information that originates from human uploads. This is all stuff that was uploaded by humans onto the internet, and that's what's used to train the models. So keep this one in mind. Think about the smartest and the dumbest people you know. We all have it. That's where the AI is getting its information. So it's very important to fact check any outputs from AI, to know how to do search engine fact checks, and to be able to recognize if there is information that's being provided to you, how do you make sure that it's correct? So what is generative AI, right? It's a technology that mimics thinking, but it is not actually thinking. What it does is it does pattern recognition. And when you ask it a question or you ask it to do something, when it pulls from the data set, it's seeing how many times does this thing you asked for appear and how can it replicate that? And it's also prediction based. So it's based off probabilities, not true understanding. So if you can remember back in ye olden days, when Google first started doing the predictive text, when you would start to type in something and you would say like CA and it's like T, yes, you're definitely trying to spell cat. I'm like, I'm attempting catastrophe, but sure, we start with cat, right? So this is very similar to that, just more complex. So we also have this massive wall of text. Sorry about that. But these are myths and facts about generative AI. There's a lot of different myths that are prevalent right now as we look on social media, as we look at, our TV media. How would they talk about generative AI, what it does and what it doesn't do? So again, Gen AI possesses human-like intelligence and consciousness. No, it's a statistical engine, meaning that it pulls from probabilities and predictive wording. LMMs are infallible and always produce correct information. So infallible means that it can never be wrong. That's not true. AI, again, is based off of human input. So sometimes it'll be wrong and it'll pretend that it's right. It's really confident that the answer is correct, even if it's not. I'm sure some of us have run into people that are like that. You know they're wrong. You have proof that they're wrong, but they believe they are correct. That's what the hallucinations are, right? Gen AI will completely replace human jobs and creativity. It's a helper, not a replacement. However, and I put this here as well, there will be some jobs lost to AI. This is true. But when we look at the jobs that are being replaced with AI, we have to think about where is the human element going and how is the human element going to need to come back to fact check and guide the AI itself. So it's also an opportunity for new types of jobs to be created. So maybe it will no longer be a person who sends out an email to the staff about one thing, but it needs to be a person who generates the information that goes into that email that the AI then takes and then puts out. So we have to kind of broaden our thinking a little bit on when we say it's replacing, not replacing, humans, no humans, those types of things. And what some companies are finding out is even if they want to replace human workers with Gen AI for different tasks, they still need the humans there to check that the AI is doing its job properly. So it's not so much replacing people, but it is pushing us in a direction where people are going to be thinking differently about how they do their jobs, right? AI models are always learning and accessing internet in real time. Not true. Most AI models, now most, not all, but most AI models are based off of static data sets, meaning that they're not live. The information that was uploaded whenever they did the upload, that's what the AI understands and can use. And it has a timestamp on it. So say if you wanted to ask ChatGPT about information that needs to be live, it's not going to know that information. So say you wanted to give you a summary of the NFL games that happened this week. It's not going to know all that all the time. Now, sometimes you do have the language learning models that have new information. For instance, Gemini, so that one's from Google. So Google Gemini has an integration with live searching. And that is because that's through Google. Copilot doesn't have that, but they're working on it. So another myth is AI output is unbiased and objective. That's not true. The AI outputs are based off of your prompts. And if you ask a question that is biased, so that it is unbalanced in how it views certain people, groups, or information, it will give you that. It will generate an output that matches what you want it to give you. Also, if the information that is uploaded is incorrect, it's going to say that information is correct. This is part of that hallucination thing. And it's very important that you understand how to fact check. Prompting is simple and only requires basic query. It depends. Sometimes you have a really simple prompt. Sometimes you have a much more complicated prompt. And I have an example of what that looks like. And then all of the biggest AI models are the only ones worth using. Not true. Some models are trained specifically on specific data sets, and those are used for very, again, specific. I know I said specific 3 times, but they're used for a very specific task, and they're used in probably smaller areas as well. Like, for instance, something needing to use legal text, right? And things that are inside of closed loop circuits, such as licensed GPTs, right? Those are not pulling from the general, those are pulling from very specific data sets. And when they use that, it's not the same as when you use a bigger one. So these are just a few myths and facts about generative AI. Hopefully, if you've heard any of the myths, now you have some facts to go with that. So when do I use it? We use AI in some form every single day. If you've ever done a Google search, if you've ever done looked at something on your smartphone, if you've used anything like a photo gallery recently, there's AI pieces in all of those things. But really specifically, what are some tasks that we can ask Gen AI to help us with? We can ask it to help us with communication. We can ask it for help with information processing. We can definitely ask it to help us brainstorm ideas. And we can ask it to help us with organization. And there's different tools for all of those things. But we're only going to really focus on 3 main tools today. So these are the big, I call them the big ones. And the reason I call them the big ones, because these are kind of more of like the all-in-one tools. So we have ChatGPT, which is the probably most known and most popular tool. And what it does is it does text generation, summarizing, brainstorming, conversational AI assistance. It helps with, it also does image generation. It does different file generations. It also does code generation. It does a lot of different stuff in ChatGPT. Then we have Microsoft Copilot, which is an Office integration. It works with your Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, anything that has to do with Microsoft. And then we have Google Gemini. So Google Gemini is all in one as well. It does text generation, summarizing, brainstorming, and it lives within the Google ecosystem. So it has the ability to pull live results. So things that are being updated on the daily. I do have a note here that says, license or paid versions come with greater accuracy, fast responses, and more powerful features. They are all free to use, but if you get the paid or licensed versions, they're more accurate and they are faster. And if you have to raise your hand or if you have a question, again, put it in the Q&A because I'll be able to answer all your questions at the end there. So let's look at Gen AI for everyday tasks, right? So I want to send an email. We send emails, we send texts, we send all sorts of different written communication. And maybe not everyone is super confident in their written communication, especially if you are a multiple language learner, or if you have, this is your first time sending a professional email to someone, or if you're a business owner and it's your first time sending out a mass email to a bunch of people and you're just not as confident as you want to be with your writing. Well, that's something that we can ask ChatGPT to help us with. So what I did was I wrote up my email first. And I would suggest doing that. Write up your message, your email, your text, whatever it is that you're going to be sending. Write it up yourself first. That way you know this is the content that you want it to have. So what I've done is I've written my email and I've given it the content that I wanted to have. I want to thank my person for coming to my garden event. And I want them to know that here's like the breakdown of the events that are going to be happening. And then I want them to remember a couple different rules that we have at the event itself and who they need to reach out to in case they need further accommodations. a salutation right at the very end, a valediction at the end, and just information about like who I am as the sender and where I'm sending it from. It's very simple, it's nice and plain. This will work, but I know that it can be a little bit better. Let me ask ChatGPT to look it over. So I've gone ahead and taken a screen capture of that. So what I asked ChatGPT to do was to revise the email for clarity and to add some visual aids to make it a little more stimulating, make it more interesting, and to make it easier to read for my intended person. So here's what Chat did for me. It gave me a more polished version of the email. It gave me a subject line to work with as well. And then it broke down my email so that it's more visually interesting. And maybe I didn't think to do this before. I'm like, oh, I should, put some numbers on this. I should put some bullet points on it. I should do different things to make it look better so that it's easier for my intended person to read it. And then what ChatGPT did was they gave me that output. Now, here's the best part about this. This is my content. I wrote this. Chat just helped me get a format for it. So that's the best way to use your chat if you're asking it to revise something. Do it the first time yourself, because those are your thoughts, those are your ideas, those are your words. Then ask chat to make it a little clearer. Add a little punch to it if you need to. Make it so that it'll be better for your audience. So that's what we're talking about, it being an assistant, not a replacement. My words, chat just made it look a little bit better. So how else can we use our tools? We can use them for creativity. We can help us with visual content, social media, design support, and creative writing. I did make sure to put this warning though. Many of the generative AI models are trained on vast data sets scraped from the internet. And that often includes human-made artwork and other copyrighted materials that are being used without the creator's consent. Why is that important? Because it could be that you want to make something visual. You prompt your Gen AI, it creates an image, but it's using 4 or 5 different artists' work. And now you're taking their work and publishing it as your own. This is called plagiarism. It's also called theft, and you could get in trouble for it. So you want to make sure that if you are using your AI tools for creativity, you're using them in an ethical way. And I'll show you how I did that. So I'm going to do something to be creative with Copilot. And what I asked it to do was I asked it to create a flyer for a business grand opening. So Copilot, and these all work kind of the same way. You just plug in what your prompt is, and then it helps and makes an output. So here, my Copilot is brainstorming what elements do I need on the opening day flyer? Where should what go? And then I want it to know, what's my flyer going to look like? So I'm asking it to generate an image of the flyer because I want to see, what is it going to look like? How you asked me for all this content, I can put all that in there. What is that going to look like? And so it's going to think about it for a little while, and then it's going to generate it for me. So I'm going to pause here so you can see it. And what I'm going to do is, instead of just saving and publishing this flyer, which is made up of images that were taken from the internet, which means that these images are stolen, I'm going to use this as a template. I'm going to use this to inspire me to create my own poster. So I'll replace the image that's here with an image of my store, or an image of, say, I'm having a birthday party. I'm going to replace it with an image of the birthday theme. I'm going to replace the images on the bottom with things that are relevant to my store, my party, my gathering. Halloween is coming up, so I'm going to use it to replace, I'm going to replace it with pictures from the Halloween party maybe. Or maybe I'm going to invite my family over for Christmas and I want to do a really cool flyer for that. This is just something to give me an idea if I had no idea to begin with. But I don't want to take it directly from Copilot because, again, I don't know where they source those images from. I don't know where they got them. They could be stock photos that got paid for. That would be awesome. But I don't know that. And it's not telling me that right now. So what I'm going to do is I can go over into Canva, Adobe Express, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and recreate this using my own images. And that'll protect me from copyright infringement, right? And again, this is where I bring it up. Think of AI as an assistant, not a replacement. The assistant just showed me what I can do. Now I, the human, am going to do it myself. So let's also look at something a little more complicated. So we did an email, we did a flyer. Let's do something that's a little more in depth. So what I did is I went over to Gemini and I asked it to write me a guide for the front office or a guide for greeting at a busy coffee shop. Because maybe I have new employees and I want to better train them for how they greet the customers on a busy mornings or busy rest of the day. And what Gemini is doing is it's going to create a guide for me, and it's going to go step by step through what should my employees do, what should I do as their manager to help them. And what's great about this is you can see this application happening also in an office where you say, you know what, we have a new front desk person, let's go ahead and put together an easy 1, 2, 3 guide for that person. And this is a little bit different from just conducting a Google search where I say like, hey, give me top 5 tips. This put it together into a guide for me that I can then take, edit to be for my business specifically, and then use it. This also works if I am a student and I need help generating an outline for an essay. I can ask it, help me make an outline for my essay because I'm not sure where to even start doing my research. So, and the way that we prompt our different tools is really conversational. You saw how I asked, like, help me make a guide. That's how you prompt your GPTs, or that's how you prompt your OpenAI. That's how you prompt the models, is it's just conversational. And then the generation time, so that one generated really fast. It depends on the complexity of the prompt and the output. So it's like simple prompts like that, super fast. Complex, that takes longer. If you're asking it to create a code or output a file type, that takes a little bit longer. So again, how is prompting AI different from Googling? Because I could have just Googled it, right? It depends on what my goal is. It depends on what kind of output I need. It depends on what source of data I'm looking at. It depends on my time focus, and it depends on my skill set. If I have a lot of confidence in the way that I can prompt, I'll prompt my AI. If I don't have a lot of confidence, I'll go to Google. If I cannot figure out the keywords for Google, I'll go to my AI and ask, hey, how do I prompt Google for this? And so I can use that interchangeably, but I know that my Google or whatever search engine you choose to use is going to give me different source documents. It's going to give me the ability to look at the sources. And we can talk about why that's super important when I look at it here. Hallucinations and how to fact check. So on my Gemini, what I did was I asked it, after I made that guide, I asked it to provide me with the sources that Gemini used to make that guide. And what Gemini gave to me as a response to that was kind of interesting. It says, I'm a large language model, and the guide I provided is greeting customers, busy, blah, 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 was created based off my training data. And all the training data, there's too much training data. I cannot tell you any specific external sources or articles I used to make it. And I thought, well, that's kind of odd because I know for a fact that there are places or people that make these guides. I know that they're published on different places on websites. So then I went over to Google to do my fact check. And what I did was I asked it a very similar question, like training guides for front office or front of business or for greeting customers at busy coffee shops. And what Google did was, again, it is the place where the source documents live. It will be able to pull those up from the internet. And that's exactly what it did. It gave me an AI overview of what I was asking for, as well as sources that the overview used. Then I scroll down. Here are all the different sources that I could go to verify that the information that AI outputted is accurate to the businesses or to the market. So that's one way that you can fact check or see for hallucinations, because sometimes your generative AI will give you sources that don't exist. And it sucks. It really does suck. But you have to double check all of the sources that it gives you, or sources it says that it has. Or if it tells you, I don't have any sources, I made this up myself based off my data set. It's like, well, I need some sources to be able to look at for this, to make sure that it's accurate for the market that I'm working in. So that leads me into like, what is AI not? It's not self-aware. It doesn't have a consciousness or emotions or personal desires like humans do. And even if you work inside of your chat or inside of your different generative AI model, and it starts to learn a voice to use with you, it's still not human. What it is it's recognizing patterns in your own writing to feed back to you. It's not perfect. Again, it makes mistakes, and those are, again, we call them hallucinations because it made stuff up based off of patterns or based off of information that it had from before. It is not a replacement for human judgment. It does not have critical thinking, empathy, or complex decision-making skills. You still need to have human oversight. So just like when I asked Gemini to tell me where it got its information and it couldn't tell me that, that's my human oversight where I say, okay, let me go and look it up. Let me find where this information could possibly have come from. And while it doesn't seem that dire because it's just like a little like welcome to the store guide, if I'm using my generative AI to summarize something bigger or something even more important or a larger piece of the data set, I really want to be able to double check and make sure that is accurate. And then why is it important that we use this ethically? So ethics, when we really think about that, is how can we use these tools in a way that is positive, helpful, and not harmful? What we want to make sure is that at no point anything that we are producing or any of the outputs that are being produced are harmful. So again, AI reflects the training data, what it's trained on. So it's going to show us biases, it's going to show prejudices, and it's going to have incomplete information based off of where that information came from. There's the misinformation risk, right? Without proper verification, AI generated content can spread false information, especially if you take something and you throw it onto social media and someone else takes it and spreads it there and there and there, and then it goes all over the place. We know that social media moves the world very, very quickly. We can see that if we look at how language has changed. So if you are from different generations, words that you had in your generation don't exist in the new generation, and their language moves so fast because of how much they share on social media. So misinformation can go very far very quickly, right? And we have a personal responsibility as well to ourselves, to our communities, to everyone around us, that we want to make sure that we are being accurate, as accurate as possible whenever we are creating or sharing information. So common pitfalls of Gen AI misuse, privacy violations, harmful content creation, credibility damage. When we talk about privacy violations, so all these tools that are free, everything that you input to them, if you upload images, upload music, upload your personal information, that gets put into the training model. Like it gets used to train the model. So you have to be very, very careful that you're not putting private information. Don't go to ChatGPT and say, how many people have my birth date, and put your birth date. It's gonna share that. And if you've logged in, say you're logged into onto your Google account and you do Gemini, you say, this is my birthday, who else has it? Or who else has a social security number close to mine? Do not ever put your social security number on the internet, just in general there. So sorry, that's me thinking about like, general, what is it? Digital literacy. Don't share your private information. Again, harmful content creation and credibility damage. All these things can happen if we are misusing our generative AI. Wow. So have a safe AI use checklist, protect your sensitive information, review any outputs before sharing, choose reputable tools. Again, if you're using the paid version of tools, that's a little safer than if you're using the free version of tools. But also, again, just make sure you're double checking stuff and follow ethical guidelines. Avoid generating harmful content or sharing harmful content. Think of these 4 things as the pillars that form the foundation of responsible AI usage. And if you just keep these 4 things in mind, it'll help you on your journey of using your AI. So again, remember these essentials. AI is a tool. We have everyday applications because we do use it every day. It's in our everyday items that we use. We run into AI all the time. And then ethics that protect everyone. So think of the successful use formula as knowledge plus ethics plus continuous learning equal powerful, responsible AI use. So I know I went through all that super duper fast. Sorry. but I will have some wrap up and resources sent out to everyone. So you will be receiving, as a follow-up email in the coming days, you'll be receiving the recording of this webinar. You'll also be receiving a beginner's AI guide, a safe use checklist. So those 4 pillars, I'll be giving you a checklist for that, and prompting guidelines to help you start prompting your AI as you go through your journey. And we'll also be sent, so you're going to get 2 emails. One is going to have all the resources and everything. And then you're also getting a follow-up survey to talk about how this went, hopefully okay, and to kind of ask about what more can we do? What more can CSUB do? What more can extended education do? And when we're asking about what more can we do, like what more learning opportunities can we give? How can we further facilitate learning about AI? How can we further facilitate helping you integrate AI into your life, or understand why AI is being integrated so much into your life? And one way that we do that is we actually have a professional certificate course, which is super exciting. It is one of the first and only ones that are student facing in the CSU. And it was created by me. I am the facilitator and the instructor. Super excited about it. You'll be able to use this certificate course to build practical AI skills step by step. It's project-based learning with real results. So basically what it is every single course has different activities that you'll be doing, that you will be testing your knowledge with AI, using AI, and understanding where we don't need to use it, where we do need to use it, different ways to do that. It's flexible, it's self-paced, and fully online. There are activity deadlines, but all of the things that you do will be seen by me, which is super exciting. So you have a live grader. So it's not just no one, it's me. Yay. So if you're interested in that, you can visit our website at extended.csub.edu/programs AI Essentials Certificate Program to find out more. All the information is on the website for how to register for that course. It's 3 courses for 12 weeks. It's pretty short and it's very impactful and very full of content. I'm really proud of it. So yeah, so thank you so much for attending the info session on AI basics. Again, a follow-up email should be coming in a few days that will have this recording as well as those resources. To find out more about the AI Essentials Certificate Program, please visit the website, or you can scan the QR code with your phone right there. And right now, I ran a little bit over with me talking, but I am going to answer some of your questions. Oh, there's me. So first question that we have is, what does LLM mean? So an LLM is a language learning model. A language learning model is a brain, basically, that they put a bunch of data into. They scraped the whole internet, threw it into this brain, shook it up, and told it to speak like a human. So when you use something like ChatGPT, the Google Gemini, or even Microsoft Copilot, when it responds to you, when it creates those outputs, it'll say, hey, I got the information you're looking for. Here it is. That's why they use those large language models, so that it sounds more human, even though there's no human involved. So I hope that helps. This is a great one. So can you ask AI tools how confident it is in its answers? You definitely can. This is actually something that's really, really fun. If you ever get the chance to do it, which please do, use any one of the big 3 and ask it to do something that you already know how to do. So this is kind of also, I'm sorry, I'm getting like super excited about it. So this is something that I'll do. If I have a new tool that I'm going to be using, I will ask it for an output that I already know the answer to. So I'll ask it to create something that I know what to do. So for instance, the first time I ever used ChatGPT, I asked it to help me plan a trip to Disneyland. Not to brag, I go to Disneyland all the time. It's my favorite place in the world. I know how to plan a Disney trip. So I worked with ChatGPT and I said, all right, let's plan a Disney trip. I want to go on 3 rides. I want 3 snacks and I want to see the fireworks. What can we do? And Chat created this outline for me about what to do. And as it was creating the outline, I am fact checking based off my own personal experience and saying, there is no way we are going to have time to do the Matterhorn and then walk quickly over to California Adventure and do something else. The lines are going to be too long and I will not be able to get my snack. So I'm fact checking based off of my own personal experience if it's right or not. So Then what I did was I asked chat, I'm like, where did you get this information from? How did you figure out like all these different things? And it told me, oh, I got it from the Disney blogs. I'm like, well, that's interesting because I'm also on the Disney blogs. So I know if you're telling me the truth or not. So it's really interesting to ask the AI and kind of challenge it with things that you already know the answer to. One of the first kind of experiments I have anyone do with their AI is ask it to make a recipe that they know how to make, visit a place that they've already visited, give them a rundown of a book that they already know. So you can test the accuracy of that AI's output with your own personal knowledge. And then you can start double checking its sources. So that's one way that you can ask AI how confident it is. But you can also, yeah, you can also still ask it like, hey, I know you just gave me all this information on how to make bison burgers. How confident are you that the bison burger I'm going to have is delicious? And it's like, well, we got the recipe from bestbisonburgerever.com. So we think it's okay. So that's one way that you can ask your AI tool. So are there any ways to identify AI posts online? This is a great question. Absolutely excellent. There are a couple different ways that you can understand if there's AI writing being used. One of them is the way that it's formatted. If you've ever heard of something called an M dash, this is a symbol in writing. It'll be word, 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 and a long dash, like a long line, and then word, word, word. That's an M dash. That has no place outside of creative writing from about 2 or 3 years ago, pre AI, generative AI. M dashes are used to replace really, really, really long pauses, really long. So if they're being used in a conversational way, or if they're being used in writing that isn't creative writing, you can usually guarantee that's going to be from AI. AI outputs love to use M dashes. I'm not sure why they love M dashes, but they do. And as someone who loves N dashes, the short line, it bothers me because I've been using N dashes the whole time. And now they're like, M dash, I'm like, no. But that's one way you can do it. The other thing is where they bold certain words, how they bold certain words. And if you're reading the writing and you're like, there's no depth, you feel no depth. It feels very surface level reading. That's going to lean into AI, or it's going to lean into someone just plugging in a prompt and getting the AI and copying and pasting it. So it's very different. So like when I used my own writing and created my email and then asked chat to just format my email, I wrote that. That was my writing. It just put it into bullet points for me. When chat or any of the other LLMs create the writing itself, it's very surface level. It doesn't go very deep unless you are continuously prompting it to go deeper, 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 deeper. And typically when we're looking at articles that come from different websites, if we're looking at, say, some of the, don't want to name drop, but if like you're looking at Yahoo articles, or if you're looking at BuzzFeed articles, things that they have to produce a lot of articles in every single day, they're going to be using AI to help them with that writing because they need to be able to produce a lot of writing really quickly. So look out for bolded words that you're like, oh, this didn't need to be bolded. Look out for kind of odd headings where you're like, I don't think this needed to be a heading. Look out for the depth of the writing and how much the author sounds like an expert or not. And then look out for those M dashes, because those M dashes, they're the ones who are going to tell you this was probably AI, unless it is creative writing, because creative writing has been using M dashes for many, 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 many years, many years. So, oh, here we go. Oh, when AI does not know the answer, yes. If AI doesn't know the answer, it will make something up. That's the hallucination. So if you ask AI for something very niche, like if you have a very niche topic and you say, hey, AI, can you write me an outline for a blog post about the Amtrak Superliner? If it doesn't know some of the information, it'll make it up. That's where you have to be really good at fact checking. That's why it's also really important that if you're asking for a niche piece of information, that's something you're already an expert in. Because if you already are an expert in it, you'll know. If you're not an expert in it, you're not going to know that it's wrong. And that's where fact checking comes in. anytime you do a generative AI output or do a prompt for a new topic that you don't really know a lot about, you're just learning about it, do some fact checking, find out. I like to refer back to, this is so funny. I don't know if anyone remembers when Wikipedia came out. And it was such a hullabaloo because people were so upset, like, well, anyone can edit Wikipedia. Oh my gosh, Wikipedia is not going to be accurate. But if you go down to the sources, you can go and see, where did Wikipedia get that information? So you use Wikipedia as the summary, and then you go to the sources. You can use your generative AI the exact same way by having it produce the summary and then ask it, give me your sources. It can give you a list of sources, links, articles, different things. And sometimes you'll click on the link, or you'll click on an article, or you'll copy paste that article over to Google or Edge, or whatever search browser you use or search engine you use, and it doesn't exist. It'll make up the article that it made up the information for. So it's very important that when you're using your generative AI to create something, you're checking the sources, you're asking it for sources. Just like my guide to how to greet customers, the LLM said, I was trained on this. I don't have to give you a source. I don't have any sources. It's all just one big summary. And when I Googled it, there was a ton of sources that it could have given me. So that's one thing that you want to make sure, again, human oversight. You're always looking at it yourself and using your own eyes. I know I'm looking off to the side because I have like questions over here and then like you guys over here. So, when do you expect AI to become sentient? So that's really interesting. So this is a question. When do you expect AI to become sentient, and what are the dangers of that? So sentient means that it gains thought, the ability to think on its own. And there's actually been a few studies now that it happened a couple months ago that AI passed the Turing test. The Turing test is how we test if a robot has like more human-like thoughts, and it was able to pass the test. So it's really, really interesting when we think about how the language models are using the data sets that have been put into them, as well as learning from the more information. The more we use AI, the more AI learns about AI's use. So I have no idea. And I hope that when it does, it remembers that I always say please and thank you whenever I'm prompting. So that's fun. So, oh yes, when AI edits a letter you give it, is it best not to put your name, or if you address a certain person? I would say don't put people's names if you're sending an email, at least not first and last names. If their name is something generic like Mr. Felding, that was my example name, or if you just don't want to, you can just put the dear and leave that blank, and then the sincerely and leave that blank as well. Definitely don't put any phone numbers, don't put any addresses, don't put any people's email addresses. Do not use any what we call level 1 data, which is identifier data. So it's really, so I think, oh my gosh, we are at time. And there's one last question. I'm just gonna get to this real quick. Is there anything we shouldn't ask AI to help us with? Use your best judgment on that one. If it's something that you can do on your own, do it on your own. If it's something that you can use your search engine for to get the answers, do that as well. Again, AI is not good for decision making. So don't ask AI for relationship advice, because it doesn't know you, and it doesn't know nuances, and it doesn't understand that. You can ask it for where to go to get relationship advice, right? Or if you're a parent and you're like, my child keeps eating the drywall, what do I do? You can ask AI to give you resources, and you can go and look at those resources. So if you're not sure what your AI should or shouldn't do, or what you should or shouldn't ask it, just use your judgment on that one. Like, if I'm gonna walk out into public and just yell this question out, who am I going to accept the answers from? Think of it kind of that way. I hope that helps. So again, thank you so much for attending the session. Thank you so much for being here and sending your questions in. If you have any follow-up questions, you have my email somewhere, I'm sure. My name and my email are also on the basics page, and they're also on the essentials page. I really hope that this was interesting and was informative, and that you learned something, and that you want to leave with curiosity. I want you to be curious. I want you to test things, learn things safely. Like, again, don't put your personal information onto the internet. That's super not safe. I know Facebook says put everything. Don't put everything. And I hope that some of you want to go ahead and join our certificate program. I worked super duper hard on it. Just saying, that is also on our website. And again, if you have any questions or concerns or issues, quandaries, qualms, you can reach out to Extended Education, either our front desk or to our email, and all that information is on the website. I really appreciate everyone who was here today. Again, the email will follow up in the next few days. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but like soonly, and that'll have more resources for everyone. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day.